Hey, what's up everyone? This is swgg on the Swagger Gaming, bringing you another World of Warcraft Battle for Azeroth video. In anticipation of the new raid, world bosses, and Mythic Plus coming out next week, I put together a best in slot list for my balanced druid. This video got pretty long, so I'll leave timestamps in the description below so you can skip around. If you don't really care about why I chose what I did and just want a general overview of what has the best stats on it, then here's the TLDR BiS list. This is taken from normal Uldir, mythics at keystone level 5, and world bosses, so everything was calculated at 355 item level. A link to the full list is located in the description below as well. Okay, for those of you who stuck around, let's check out how I came to this conclusion, and I'll provide a few backup pieces of gear that are close as well. The best thing you can do to determine your stat weights is to just sim your character. I use a combination of raid bots and Ask Mr. Robot to determine what is best for my character. Stat weights themselves are not 100% accurate because they change depending on current stats, meaning when you change a piece of gear, your weights will change slightly. That being said, there's a general stat priority, and I use this to determine what pieces of gear to target. That priority is Intellect, Haste, Crit, Burst, then Mastery. I put my personal stat weights in the description below, but you will need to sim yourself to grab more accurate weights for your own character. Azerite traits are a little bit harder to determine, but there's a general order to them. I'm going to briefly talk about which ones to target, and we'll go into more detail in another video. A good place to start is a website called Hero Damage. This has a nice list of traits, but again, simming your character will be better. Thunderous Blast and Streaking Stars are the two best traits for balanced druids. You should be looking to get these as much as possible. Thunderous Blast is slightly better, but when you can start stacking Streaking Stars, it pulls ahead. This means that you should really be targeting Streaking Stars all the time because it gets a big boost when you hit 3 stacks. Note that while 3 times Streaking Stars is the most damage output if you use Celestial Alignment or Incarn on cooldown, this trait does nothing if you have not popped said cooldowns. Laser Matrix and Dagger in the Back are your 3rd and 4th ranked Azerite traits. These traits are a step down from Thunderous Blast and Streaking Stars, but are a big step up from the rest of the field. Grab one of these if your first 2 are unavailable. For our inner ring of abilities, Blood Siphon is our #1 trait, followed by an overwhelming power. As we jump into Heroic Uldir and start grabbing 370 eye level gear, this will switch up and Heed My Call jumps to the top. Note that for the most part, the drop off between Azerite traits in the outer ring is much higher than in the inner ring. This means you will almost always want to prioritize taking Streaking Stars and Thunderous Blast over Heed My Call and Blood Siphon. Okay, now that we got all of that out of the way, let's get into the actual gear. I want to start with the Azerite Armor slots as the trait should be fresh in our minds. For the head slot, we have 2 great options. The first one is called the High Altitude Turban, which has Streaking Stars and Blood Siphon, and is dropped from the Motherlode dungeon. Please remember that all of the dungeon gear was calculated at Mythic plus 5 to put it on par with the normal raid boss and world boss drops. The second hat is off the world boss Dunegorger Crawlock, so it will probably be much harder to farm given the world bosses have a rotation to go through. This hat is called the Hood of Sinuous Devilsaur and has Thunderous Blast and Blood Siphon. For shoulders, there are 2 with Streaking Stars, but one has a much better secondary trait. The Death Shambler's shoulder pads have Heed My Call and drop off the world boss to Zane. The Tentacle Lace Spawners will be easier to farm as they drop in Shrine of the Storms, but they have the Elemental Whirl trait, which is very average. Lastly, let's talk about chest pieces. Your best in slot piece is the Spymaster's Wrap and drops from the Atal dungeon. This chest has Streaking Stars and Life Speed. The other chest to target would be the Tunic of the Sanguine Deity. This drops off Gahoon, which is the last boss in the Uldir raid, and has the Laser Matrix and Heed My Call traits. Let's move on to weapons. I simmed and calculated over 40 combinations of weapons for this test, and the results show that in general, having a one-hand and offhand combo is better than a two-hander. In fact, there were 10 combinations of one-hander and offhand that came out higher than the best two-hander. The absolute best combination I came up with was Liax's Thought Piercer from the Underrot, paired with the Rattling Jar of Eyes out of Tol Dagor. The Tusk of the Reborn Prophet drops from Zul and Uldir, and the Galvanized Stormcrusher drops from the Temple of Sethralis. Both of these are within a couple of stat points and are great alternatives for your main hand. The Codex of Imminent Ruin and the Uldir Subject Manifest both drop off of Uldir. off of Mithrax and Mother respectively, and are both a step down from the Rattling Jar of Eyes. However, all three will sim higher than any two-hander when paired with any of the three weapons listed above. I want to talk about two-handers as well, just to cover all of our bases. The best by far from a sim standpoint is the Staff of the Lightning Serpent out of Temple of Sethralis. This staff is head and shoulders above the others. Seabreeze is an interesting one as well, and when I calculated it to grab a base haste value from the proc, it appeared to be the best weapon in the game by far. However, when running simulations, it was consistently near the bottom. I am assuming this is because the proc is random, so you can get it at inopportune times, and it has a fairly low proc chance at 0.7 times per minute on average. This combined with the fact that it has no static secondary stats on it is probably what is bringing it down. I'm hoping we get some good data on it moving forward so we can reevaluate at a later time. Alright, trinket time. Trinkets were harder because I had to rely on the simulations only. I ran 14 trinkets including the Dark Moon card and Layshok's Grand Compilation, which is the 350 world drop. My conclusion is that the Drust-Ruined Icicle off the Hailstone Construct world boss is by far the best trinket in every situation. This has 154 mastery and gives your spells a chance to grant you 1401 intellect for 12 seconds. Data mining shows that this procs approximately 2 times per minute, which is great. The second best trinket is the Vigilance Blood Shaper, which drops off of Talok and Uldir. This has 236 intellect and gives your damaging spells a chance to launch an orb of charged blood at your target, dealing 8,075 shadow damage split among all nearby enemies. This looks like it will proc approximately 1 time per minute, but also appears to be affected by haste. If you're looking to farm out a trinket from Mythic Plus, I would target the Ignition Mage's Fuse from TLDR. This sim the highest by far out of all of the dungeon trinkets. Let's finish this up with the other less sexy gear slots. The best cape comes from the Motherlode dungeon and is called the Cloak of Questionable Intent. This is followed closely by Rawl's Bib from Waycrest Banner and the Feated Horror's Tenure Cloak off of Feated Devourer and Uldir. The Servo Arm Bindings from the Motherlode are the best bracers you can find. Chill's End Wrist Guards off of the Hailstone Construct world boss are close behind, but will be much harder to farm. For gloves, I would target the Gloves of Descending Madness off of Talok and Uldir, or the Underrot Grotto Tenders out of the Underrot. If you can't grab either of these, the Grubby Servant Gravers from Waycrest or the Gloves of Desert Assassin off the world boss Doomgorger Kralok are fairly close. The Port Pillager's Belt out of the Siege of Borealis is our best choice for the waist slot. The Primal Dinomancer's Belt from King's Rest is a close second, but everything else drops off significantly from there. For pants, we will want to target the Seawalker's Pantaloons out of Siege, followed by either the Leggings with the Endless Void from the world boss Warbringer Yanaj, or the Singe Blotch Breeches from TLDR. The Sandshine Snakeskin Sandals are our best choice for boots. After that, there are 3 pairs of shoes that are fairly close as well. The Mercenary Miner's Boots from the Motherlode, the Footpads of the Serene Wake from Shrine, and the Quarantine Protocol Treads off of Zekvaz in Uldir are all great backups. Lastly, let's talk about rings. I was able to locate 18 different rings at 355 eye level, and found that the Seal of Questionable Loyalties at a freehold was by far the best. Of course, you will need 2 rings to play World of Warcraft, so let's talk about the rest of the field. The Band of the Ancient Dredger from Siege of Borealis and the Ritual Binder's Ring from King's Rest are your 2 best choices for your second ring slot. Hopefully you will be able to grab at least 2 out of these 3 rings, as they are all farmable on Mythic Plus. Well, there's the list thus far. Some of these items like Seabreeze might shake up the list moving forward once we get some more real in-game data. If this happens, I will make sure to update the video. Hopefully this video helped you learn a bit more about your boomkin, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you had a good time. As always, thanks for watching and have a great one.